Good morning, Devils fans. I'm going to take today's video to do a bit of a core comparison, as there has been lots of chatter in the hockey world around the recently signed deal by the Ottawa Senators and Jake Sanderson. Obviously, anytime a young player signs anywhere around 8 or more per year, they get compared to Jack, who obviously now looks like a steal. So I've also seen talks about the Senators' top 5 players who are all making decent money, still being value paid at what they earn overall. And I think there's a fairly great one-to-one comparison with our core, although I think it'll be an even better one-to-one comparison next year. And can probably even add a 6th player for both teams to maybe make this a bit more lopsided. Before I dive very deep into comparing the cores as a whole and the players one-to-one, I do want to say I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Senators. I really like a lot of their players. Every Senators fan I've interacted with has always been great when discussing hockey, either of our teams or, the NHL as a whole. And I also think our teams are somewhat comparable just as franchises, at least in the sense that we are 2 small markets that are wedged between 2 major markets. Obviously, us having New York and Philly, and them having Toronto and Montreal. So always felt a bit of a kinship there with the Senators. I definitely like them. We'll see how that continue to age as both of these teams are young, up and coming, and we'll probably be battling it out in the East for years to come. But I will say, obviously, from the jump, I think the Devils' score is better. Don't think that will come as a surprise to anyone that watches this channel regularly at all. So, overall cap here. They've got Brady Tkachuk, Stützle, Norris, Shabbat, and Sanderson coming in at all 5 of them combined when Sanderson's contract kicks in next season will be $40.55714 mil. And for us, I went with Timo, Jack, Nico, Brat, and Dougie as our big 5, coming in at a total of $40.925. So you're talking less than $400,000 difference that we are paying more for our 5 core guys compared to theirs. And I think on the whole, as I go in and we'll break these down individually, ours is just better. I will say it's not the best one-to-one comparison, even if 4 out of 5 of these I think are pretty spot on. At the end of this, I'm going to do a Brett to Sanderson comparison because they're kind of the leftovers. Next year, when Luke gets his contract, Luke to Sanderson will be a much more apt comparison for sure. And we'll probably end up doing one of these videos in the off season. And we'll see how things change. So let's go ahead and dive into the one-on-one comparisons. At the top, we're going to start with the young stud Dynamo centers in Tim Stützle and Jack Hughes. We've got Stützle at 21, Jack is 22. Stützle making 8.35, Jack making 8. Their career trajectories are fairly close. So I did mostly past 3 years comparison. I did go to 4 with Jack just to give the full vision there. But otherwise, really just a recent 3 years. Wasn't worried too much about trying to line up their age comparisons, yada yada, you get the idea. So Stützle last year had a 39 goal, 51 assists, 90-point season in 78 games. Again, I love this kid. I think he is fantastic. He's probably, if not already, will be considered the best player from his draft. That was a 1.15 points per game season for him. If you look at Jack's same age season, which was not this most recent one, but the one before that, Jack put up 26 goals, 30 assists for 56 points, but that was only in 49 games, which put him at 1.14 points per game. So that is 0.01 less than what Stützle just did. So I know, because I've already seen it and had these discussions, that Senators fans think he is on the Jack trajectory of really blowing this league away, and he will be on a steal of a contract, which I do agree with. I just personally, and I think the vast majority of NHL fans will agree, that Jack is still better. Stützle is still probably going to be a top 10 center in this league for sure. I just think Jack is top 3. I know that's a bit of a bold take. Even if you want to hamper that down a little bit, you can say Jack is top 5, but still, he's better than Stützle. How much better? Noticeably so. When you get into those upper echelons, it might not be a lot of players in between them, but the actual skill level is just it's not really that close, I think. Again, Stutzel is amazing. He is a stud. He is going to remain a over point per game player. He might even hit 100 points at a point in his season. I just think Jack is a 100-point guy consistently. So Jack's 1 year older, but he's making less money and is the better player. I'm obviously taking Jack there, even if Stutzel is, again, fantastic. Going down to our next, I think, most apt comparison, we're going with our most highly paid forward. And then the Senators' comparison to our power forward would be theirs in Brady Tkachuk and Timo Meier. Now, basically at the start of the season, Brady's 23 now, Timo's 26, but for the start of the season, 24 and 27, respectively. Brady making 8.2, yada, yada, yada. Timo making 8.8. So Timo is older and is making more money. And on a at least point per game basis, it could be arguable that Brady's career has been better at a younger age. I don't even know if it's necessarily arguable, but if you just and not lining up their age to age season, but just the last 3 years, Brady put up 36 and 56, 67, 79, then 83 and 82. He actually has a point per game season already at 24, where Timo has yet to have that. Timo is 31 and 54, 76 and 77 was his closest. And last season, we obviously know he did not have a lot to work with in San Jose, and then had a bit of a slow start here in Jersey, which is, I think, the fall off there. But he is the only one of the two with a 40-goal season, which he just had this last year. This one, I think, is I'm a huge fan of Brady. He's still so young. He's really only just going to grow into his game, and I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. Given age and contract, I can absolutely see the argument for Brady over Timo, even if I think Timo is currently the better player. So it really will just depend on how they continue to age and grow into, especially Timo into his later years, while Brady's really just heading into his peak. So this one, Brady younger and cheaper contract. So if you want to say you would take that purely on that basis, plus having a better point per game season and on that upward trajectory, I can see it. I won't argue too heavily against you there, but I think Timo is the better player now, and I think Timo will definitely outproduce Brady this season, and I think it'll really just hammer home Timo with an actually stacked lineup across the board that he's going to be playing with, and compared to what he had to deal with in San Jose last year, will give him probably the best numbers of his career. But again, younger, cheaper contract, it's very hard to argue against that. Next up, I'm going to go with our exact same age, very similar contracts, two-way center in Josh Norris versus Nico Hischier. Last 3 seasons, it's kind of hard to compare due to injuries for both. So Norris 3 seasons ago had 35 points in 56, then 55 and 66, and then only 3 points in 8 games this last year due to injury. Nico 3 seasons ago dealt with injury, so he had 11 points in 21 games, then 60 and 70, and now 80 in 81 games. So Nico has the better career age, and Nico has the cheaper contract, and Nico is a perennial Selke candidate, just coming in second now to the guy that the trophy's basically named after, in Bergeron. So yeah, this one, I don't think there's any conversation to be had that Nico is the better player. Norris did have a 35-goal season compared to Nico's best at 31, but Nico's a better playmaker, the better two-way forward, the captain for us, just across the board. I don't think this one's even all that close. I'm taking Nico over Norris easy. Easy there. So next up, again, Ottawa has a bit of the younger guy here if we're talking about our 1Ds on each team, with that's Thomas Chabot for Ottawa and then Dougie Hamilton for us. Chabot at 26 making 8, Dougie at 30 making 9. Chabot 3 seasons ago, 31 and 49, 38 and 59, then 41 and 68 with an 11-goal season. Dougie, 42 and 55, 30 and 62, and then 74 and 82 with a 22-goal season. Right now, Dougie is better. He's also the most compared to Chabot's lefty. Chabot's only making $1 million less and is younger, but I think Dougie's game can age better, if that fan that probably is not. But yeah, obviously Dougie's older by 4 years. That is a bit of a hit, but if you look at other that are a similar game style and size to Dougie, they age very well. So while if you could convince me you would take Brady over Timo for age-related reasons, I'm going to push back on this one, where I still take Dougie over Shabbat. Right D over left D for sure. I think Dougie is a much better offensive dynamo. I just think he has the better tool set compared to Shabbat. Now, maybe Shabbat ages into this a lot better, but given what I've seen, not super confident on that. And last, easily the worst comparison on this list to make. So it's not even really a comparison other than they were the 5th guys on both teams, and that is Jake Sanderson at 21 years old, will be making $8 million. He is still on his ELC for this next season, where he had a 4-goal, 28 assists, 32 point in 77 games. And then we've got Brat, 25 years old, making 7.875. What a great contract. Where he had 30 and 46, then 73 and 76, and 73 and 82, having his first 30-plus goal season with 32 this last year. So, defenseman to winger, younger, but ours guy has the cheaper contract. Really hard to compare here. Like I said at the top, I would much rather compare Luke here, but Luke's comparison in the regular season was 1 goal, 1 assist in 2 games. So, again, kind of hard to project that out, really. But I personally would take Luke over Sanderson as is right now anyway. Both still on their ELCs for this year. And I personally, unless Luke does something insane this year, which I don't expect, I think Luke's contract's going to come under Sanderson, and it's just going to make these core comparisons all the more heavily favored in the Devils area. If I did need to have another forward to compare Brat to, you're probably talking Batherson, winger, same age. Batherson's making 4.975, but his production doesn't really touch Brat's. He had 22 goals, 40 assists for 62 points this past season. He's obviously making a lot less than Brat, but Brat's the better player, has the better track record. But I could see Batherson maybe taking a step, assuming he's still in the NHL this next season. We'll see how that goes with the Hockey Canada stuff. But hey, this is where I went, just the most paid guys, the top 5 paid guys for each team. And this was how the list broken down. Next year, I would love to do a 6-to-6 comparison, adding in Luke and Batherson to this list. And again, I just think that will just more heavily favor us. But yeah, I just want to touch a little bit. I know this is a Devils podcast, but on the Sanderson deal, I know it's getting a lot of flack across the community outside of really Senators fans. If I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, if their internal models are showing Sanderson is due for an insane breakout year, and you want to factor in that the cap is supposed to jump majorly in these next coming seasons, that this deal is trying to get ahead of that, and they're just trying to align their core on better contracts now, just kind of mapping it out for a few years if they don't think they're cup contenders right now, but they will be in a couple years, so they're trying to get ahead of that before the cap jumps. Sure, but if you want to go by a cap percent basis, let's say you want to argue Sanderson right now is worth $6 million, right? You would have loved to get him at the current cap hit percentage at $6 million. That'd be 7.3% of today's cap. If you want to say the cap jumps up to 102.5 in 2 years, which is, I think, the estimated amount, we're supposed to get a big jump. This $8 million deal is a 7.8% cap hit at that point. So it's still a bit more than that 6 would be now. When you look at it that way, I really think maybe they should have just bridged him. I don't see Sanderson's play bumping him over $8 million even after the cap hit is my biggest point. Even after the cap hit, I don't think $8 million would have been a crazy pay for him at that point. So the fact that you did it now, I don't think saves you all that much, if any, money. And that's really where my issue with the deal comes in. Does he outperform it and have a huge Jack blow up like we saw? I don't think so. None of the even public models have anything like this for Sanderson where they did for Jack. I know a lot of people came in making fun of Jack's contract, and we were defending it. Same way everyone's making fun of this contract, and the Senators are defending it. I just don't think they're the same. Your 1C versus your 2D, because he's still behind Shabbat for a while. Yeah, tough comparison, I think. But anywho, that's going to do it for this episode. It actually maybe inspired me to do a bit more core comparisons as we head into the season, but probably going to keep it in division, or at least teams that I think are on the same trajectory as us, like Buffalo maybe. But we'll see. I did really want to get to a management spotlight videos talking about Tommy Fitz. and everyone else within the organization. But we'll see what kind of mood I'm in come tomorrow. But it is Thursday. Let's get through the day into tomorrow and into the weekend. Does it for our core comparison video. Hopefully, at least the Devils fans agree with me across the board. Maybe I'll get some flack for the Brady Timo comparison. And hopefully I get some Senators' views on this one. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Am I completely out of line on any of these takes? I don't think so. But would love to hear it from the other side. So I will see everyone tomorrow morning as always. And forever, let's go Devils.